Hey Redditors! Things are pretty rough now. It's been 5 years since I divorced my wife. It was a stressful but necessary decision. My wife was cheating on me with my cousin. During this entire time, she neglected me and my son. He was 10 back then. I do not believe in violating someone's privacy. Never had and never will. I just happened to witness my wife's affair with my cousin with my own eyes and ears. So I was outside the States. I had to go to Paris for a 1 month business trip. Initially, there was too much workload and I barely had time to myself. Luckily, I finished most before the time. We completed everything in 2 weeks and spent the next week on travel and tourism. I bought several trinkets for my family and friends. I told my wife I wouldn't be back until May 24th, but we finished early and came back before the expected date. We returned to the States on May 21st, a day before our 15th wedding anniversary. By the time I got home, no one was there. It was quite convenient because I wanted to surprise her, so I hid my suitcase under the bed because I do all the cleaning so she won't suspect. I wanted to throw a surprise anniversary party, but I knew I wouldn't manage in such a short time, so I called my friends and they helped me organize the whole thing. While preparing the venue for the party, I also handed out the trinkets I bought for them. Finally, everything was exactly how I wanted it to be. I went back home to pull a prank on her. Instant idea. I was about to set up the prank when I heard two voices, all too familiar, on their way to our bedroom. I didn't want to spy, but I couldn't contain the urge to hide somewhere, anywhere. Time was running out, and hiding in the closet wasn't a good idea. We recently installed a changing room divider so that we could change clothes behind the screen without either of us necessarily leaving the room. It looked like a mirror, but it was glass, and the one standing behind the screen could see through it. I decided to hide behind the screen. The door opened with a loud bang, and my wife walked in with another guy, nearly tripping on the way as they were passionately kissing each other. I couldn't believe my eyes, and I couldn't look away either. She was cheating on me with my cousin. They were giggling and laughing, quickly discarding each other's clothes. I could hear the sound of fabric tearing and a thud as they fell on my bed. I turned around, not daring to watch any further. I couldn't handle the betrayal, but I could still hear my wife moaning and screaming, clearly enjoying it. That 1 hour was nothing short of torture. After they finished, they talked about how dumb I was and how she pretended to be in love with me. She was bored and needed someone more wild and passionate than me. They were reminiscing about how they wanted each other the moment they met. The conversation continued till they fell asleep. I seized the moment and silently tiptoed out of my bedroom and left the house. The next day, as planned, one of my friends brought my wife to the venue blindfolded. She was about to get the surprise of her life. If only you could see the look on her face when I brandished the divorce papers and threw them at her face. Her shock and confusion quickly turned into disappointment. My friends have always warned me to be careful with this woman. If only I had listened to them. Even they believed my wife became a better woman by marrying me. Judging by their facial expressions, they didn't expect this either. Eventually, my wife and my cousin dragged me to court and he made false accusations about domestic violence against me. It was a long and tiring battle, but we won. The divorce procedure was messy, but eventually our matrimonial relationship was terminated. Meanwhile, both of us had joint custody over our son, a decision I deeply regretted. I should have taken full custody of my son, but he didn't want to part from his mother. It has been 5 years since the court terminated our marital relationship. My ex recently married my cousin and has been living her second happy ever after. After divorcing her, I thought that finally we will live a peaceful life without her toxic presence. I guess I was wrong. Over the years, my ex-wife became very controlling, as my son said. He has a girlfriend whom my wife didn't like. She is a sweet, innocent girl who truly loves my son, but my ex thinks that she lacks class, as if she is classy herself. Either way, there was still time for my son to turn 18, and I didn't want another messy court matter, so I decided to wait till my son became a legal adult. It was my son's birthday. He finally turned 16, and we threw a huge party in his honor. My son specially requested I not let his mom and stepdad know about the party. He received birthday wishes from both of them on WhatsApp, and that's it. About the party, it was amazing to bond with my son's friends. They think I'm a cool dad, which is sort of the greatest compliment I could get from teenagers. Some of his friends stayed the night at our house, including his girlfriend, while the rest of them went home. A few days later, my ex-wife's new husband, I refused to call him my brother, stormed in and insulted me for not inviting them to an important event like my son's birthday. A few minutes later, my ex-wife got out of the car and joined her husband to humiliate me. My neighbors were intrigued by the heated argument and tried to take a peek. They threatened to turn my life into hell and took off. Eventually, what I didn't want happened. My ex-wife's new husband dragged me to court again. My son was on a camping trip from their school and wouldn't be back for a week. I didn't want to cut his trip short. It was difficult to manage everything in court due to my son's absence, but my lawyers convinced the judges to wait for a week. I'm still waiting for my son to return home so the nightmare would end quickly. Update 1. Hey everyone, my son is back now and the next hearing is scheduled after a few days. I have a principle of not letting my personal life affect my professional life, but I can't. My friends and my colleagues are really supportive and they have been trying to help us in whichever way they can. My boss has lessened my workload for now, but in exchange for working extra hours once this matter is resolved. My son has his exams next month, but he can't study properly. He is playing a lot of video games to keep his mind away from all these, a coping mechanism, as his therapist says. His girlfriend recently visited our house to spend some time with my son, but their conversations seemed cold. I could see that the girl was trying her best to cheer my son up, but he behaved rather rudely with her. He broke up with her on the doorstep and asked her to not bother him anymore. After my son stormed inside, she started crying. I came out of my hiding spot and consoled her. She understood that he needed space. She is mature for her age, and told me that she would come back when he decides to reach out. Update 2. Hey guys, tomorrow is the day. Final court hearing, and I'm very nervous. I don't want to lose custody of my son. We are on thin ice as it is. My son came to my room yesterday. I couldn't even look at his face without feeling devastated, but I masked my sadness. He has lost a lot of weight and is barely keeping his balance. He looked so pale and there were dark circles around his eyes. These days, he barely touches food. He has lost his appetite. He doesn't want to go to his mother and says that he would rather die than go there. Being a father, listening to my son wanting to die is the worst thing I could ever hear. I know that my ex-wife and her husband are going to use this to their advantage and say that I am neglecting my son. Even if my son says something, they would twist it up and paint me as the bad guy. Sometimes I ask myself, how can a mother be so mean and reckless to her son? He is her biological son, for God's sakes. I always thought that she was tough on him so he could become a better human being. I doubt that now. My lawyers and personal investigators are currently searching for evidence against the couple who is trying to destroy us. Update 3. Hey guys, I have news for you. We have won the case. Everything was exactly how I imagined it to be. My wife took advantage of my son's pale appearance and accused me of abusing him. It was worse than I expected. My son was stammering throughout the confession and her lawyers used it against me. We were almost losing and the judge was about to give his final verdict when something happened. My son got up from his seat and, in a loud voice, accused my ex-wife's husband of attempting to murder us. He told the judge how his stepdad manipulated him into staying silent or else he would harm me, which he is already doing, and his girlfriend. That explains why he was behaving so coldly with her. My son further confessed how he heard his stepdad talking about seizing my property by planning our accident. My ex-wife stood there stunned by the confession. The expression of betrayal on her face was so genuine that I felt pity for her. My son didn't know that he accidentally turned on the voice recorder on his phone and it recorded a part of his conversation where he was explaining how to kill us. That was enough evidence to charge him. As for his mother, we decided to sever ties with her and filed a restraining order against her. Well, that was it. We got rid of their toxic presence in our lives for good. The procedure was long and exhausting, and we did it. Thank you, Redditors, for being with me throughout this journey. It has been wonderful having your love and support. NTA, I am shocked to see how one person can stoop so low. My God, he was dangerous. Thank God you guys are safe. NTA, I would like to say both of them harmed you and your son mentally. Your ex-wife was way too selfish to take care of your son. Restraining orders take a lot of time to come into force. I would advise hiring proper security till then. Stay safe. Next story. My brother was married to my best friend, Ellie, for a decade. They had 2 children together, Milo, who's 8, and Piper, who's 7. Ellie was diagnosed with cancer 3 years ago and passed away almost a year later. The kids were 5 and 6 years old. My brother met Danny after a few months and began dating her soon after. He and Ellie's family had a big falling out because he told them he was hoping Danny would take their mom's place and that they would embrace her as their new mom, and he wanted Ellie's family to take a back seat so that could happen. They asked how he could erase Ellie, and he told them she's dead, and he and the kids aren't, and he didn't want them holding a candle for a dead mother the rest of their lives while they could have a living one. When they told him they loved the kids too much to disappear, he told them he could maybe arrange a phone call every Christmas. They decided to take him to court and were granted grandparents' visitation as the judge saw it in the best interest of the kids, so they would maintain a relationship they already had with their deceased mother's family. My brother and I also had a strained relationship because he also tried to get me to erase Ellie. On to Danny. She and my brother married a few months ago and hates Ellie's family. She has accused them of caring more about themselves and Ellie than the kids because they denied them a more whole family. She visibly shows annoyance when the kids mention Ellie. She blamed me when the kids told her they weren't going to call her mom. She and my brother asked if they would, and the kids weren't interested. She was also unhappy they spent Mother's Day with Ellie's family and not her, and even told the kids. Not too long ago, she confronted me and said my contact with Ellie's family sends the kids the wrong message, and that I clearly have a favorite sister-in-law, which isn't fair. I told her Ellie was my best friend since we were 4. Her family and I are close, and of course we remained close when she married my brother. Danny told me I need to stop seeing them or else. She told me she's tired of being second best and not being chosen by the kids. She said they don't even try to let her in. We argued, and I told her that her being jealous and controlling will always make her second best unless she learns to embrace that she did come after Ellie in our lives. She lost it, and my brother told me my loyalty should be with him and Danny over Ellie's family. He also told me I was insensitive with Danny. AITA? NTA. It's giving I have moved on, and the fact that my kids won't also totally raise dead wife from their lives is pretty fricking inconvenient for me, to be honest. Like, who the actual frick says things like he wants the new girlfriend to replace their mother? He doesn't want the dead wife's family to see the kids, and he doesn't want his kids holding a candle for a dead mother when they could have a living one. Disgusting. NTA, your brother and Danny are the a-holes. It is horrible that the children have lost their mother, but it is even worse that they tried to erase her. That is not healthy for them. It should be considered psychological abuse to make them give up the memory of their mother like that and love a stranger, because that is what Danny is. Plus, she seems like the evil stepmother forcing them to love her. She would do better if she tried to be more like a friend or an aunt. By the way, by Danny's behavior, if she gets to have her own children, it will be the end of your nieces and nephews. Next story. I'm 17, female. My parents are divorced and married to different people. I have an older brother, 20, male, and a twin brother, 17, male. I have other siblings, but these are the only ones I share both parents with. My dad has 4 children with his wife, and my mom has a daughter with her husband. Recently, my twin came out as gay. My older brother is bi, and he's been in a relationship with a man for the past year. Our dad, 48, male, who's claiming that he isn't homophobic, has taken the news of my twin coming out strangely. I've always said I don't want to have kids. Yes, I know I'm 17 and my opinion might change, but right now, the whole idea just seems scary to me. My mother went to hell and back with miscarriages, and I think I'm traumatized, IMAO. Since my twin came out, my dad has really been pressing the idea of children on me. He's been asking me to babysit my siblings so I can see that kids aren't that bad. And he's been giving me long lectures on why having kids is good and important. He's insisting that this isn't because my twin came out, but it's obvious that it is. He also set me up on a date with his friend's son that went awful, and when I got home, I confronted him about his weird behavior. That's where he admitted that he's worried about not having any grandchildren from his first marriage. I told him that was totally weird and absurd, mainly because why does it matter which marriage your grandchildren are coming from? And he has this weird thing about wanting my mother to stay in his life even though he cheated on her. We got into an argument, and I said it was even weirder he was trying to press this on me while I'm a teenager. And his excuse was that people in our family tend to have children at a young age, which is true. I ended up leaving to go stay with my mom, but I called him a weirdo and told him to leave me alone about all of this before I left. Later on, my stepmother called me and demanded that I apologize to him. According to her, I made him feel like a creep for being worried about something that a lot of people are naturally worried about. Now I feel bad and I want to know if I AITA. Thanks. NTA, you're the one who has to be pregnant, give childbirth, and take care of the child for the rest of your life. It's a huge responsibility and life-changing event, and if you don't feel you're up to it, he should respect that. Plus, he has lots of other opinions for grandchildren, LOL. Also, you're only 17, which is too young generally to be thinking about children anyways. NTA, he is being a weirdo. He doesn't get to demand kids from anyone. His wife needs to butt out. Do not apologize because you didn't do anything wrong. The fact that you mentioned still wanting to keep your mother in the picture after cheating on her makes me think he's long wanted to have people tap dance to his demands. You're an individual, and what you want now needs to be respected. Yes, you might change your mind, but that's for you to decide, not to be strong-armed into doing something that has lifelong consequences. Tell your dad to quit with the guilt-tripping and manipulation. If he doesn't, do not visit. Go low contact. Good luck. NTA, forget being weirdly obsessive about having grandchildren from the children of his first marriage. He's not entitled to grandchildren at all. It is entirely the choice of each of his children whether or not they reproduce. He was being weird and pushy, and it's perfectly reasonable of you to have called him out on it and told him that he needs to stop. He can be worried about this all he wants to be as long as he keeps it to himself, which he's not doing here. His behavior is what's inappropriate, and as far as that goes, he owes you an apology. If having a relationship with your dad is important to you, I encourage you to take some time to gather your thoughts and then sit down with him, or write him a letter if you're not comfortable doing that, where you let him know how uncomfortable he's making you, and specifically point out that he's pushing his actual living child, who exists right now, away with his obsession about the potential for future grandchildren. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.